welcome the CEO of Carlson Rezidor Hotel Group, South Asia, Rana.
Tell me what you really like. Baby, I can take my time. We don't ever have to fight.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Welcome. So Raj, you are running the Asia operations for an international chain with various brands. What are some of the biggest challenges you have in Asia and then specifically in India?
Well, I would say that India is not really a market, but a combination of many micro markets with its diverse cultures, different languages, different food, different expectations of the guests. So it's just a conglomeration of different markets. That's one challenge. Second, of course, is the regulatory challenges. I think it's a known fact by many of our colleagues, not only in the hotel industry, but otherwise, the number of permits and the bureaucratic process or the red tape that is still there, or the license Raj, as they call it, my last name, Raj, that is still there. And if I may add, I would also say that it's a country where relationships are still paramount. It is not about ink on paper, because the justice system can be slow if things go wrong. And as they say, justice delayed is justice denied. So you have to rely on the strength of your own relationships to keep them well endured and time tested. So then in tough times, you can still go through and look beyond for better days to come.
Okay, so as a leader in India, obviously you're doing something right. How are you negotiating those challenges?
One is in choosing the right partners, because you've got to be careful of who you're signing deals with. So if you get that right, then I think half the battle is won. The second, as I said, is to understand that value has to be delivered not to your company, but to who's across the table. And that means all stakeholders. And by that, if I may elaborate, it is not only the owners who invest in the hotels, putting in millions of dollars, but also the vendors, the guests, the suppliers, the providers, the platforms out there, because you have to work cohesively with them. Because with each area, you can have challenges. So you have to learn to sort of find solutions for each of those areas, and only then you can go forward.
So partners and relationships, so important.
Indeed.
So what do you see as your best opportunities here in India? You know, as you look to expand the brand within the country,
right.
How do you prioritize? Where do you see opportunity in terms of type of product and in terms of location?
Sure. Now, Carlson Rezidor has been in India for over 15 years, and we are in almost 60 cities. But our current push is more in secondary, tertiary cities, because we find that mid-scale demand, or in the mid-scale segment, that's where inventory is lacking. For example, if you take US is 70% branded inventory, and I know that since I worked over there. The flip is that in India, 70% is unorganized sector in hotels, exactly the same ratios. But in the unorganized sector, there are not too many hotels that can convert to branded, because there are fire life safety issues and they do not pass the minimum standards of a brand. So new built hotels are there, and they make more sense in the secondary tertiary markets because of the lower rate possibilities. So return on investment is better there.
But as you mentioned, in terms of that, unbranded hotel opportunity of OYO rooms and Tebow, and you have other companies doing that. Are they in your space at all, or in your face at all?
They themselves may not be as much, but certainly they're creeping up. I call some of them as ankle biters, because they start biting at the lower end of the branding, and some of them budget and mid-scale hotels can be affected. Will customer behavior change? I think it will. There are plenty of people that when they travel, sure, 20 years ago they may be staying with families and friends. Today they definitely want hotels, but they may want privacy, and they may not necessarily want a brand. So I think customer behavior will change.
So how do you respond? So if there's, like you said, there's that demand for the budget hotel, but also for an experience, for some amenities. So is that kind of your niche where you see Carlson in India?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because loyalty today cannot just come forward based by your giving a lower rate. It is not a commodity market. Hotels come with distinguished experience. I always say that guests have a choice. They can walk into the door of your lobby or the hotel next door. So how do you make them walk into your lobby? That is always the challenge. In a lighter note, how do you get them to sleep with you? I mean, in your guest rooms, not particularly with you itself. So that is always a challenge. And I think we have to understand customer behavior. As I often say that, for example, a man would buy probably a $2 item, a $1 item, sorry, for $2 if he needs. My wife would buy probably a $1 item, a $2 item for $1 at 50% discount, even if she does not need. So you have to understand the customer behavior as to where are they, and then only tempt them with the right platforms.
Okay. So when you talk about understanding customer behavior, a lot of that involves obviously data and how you analyze data. How well would you say Carlson is doing that, and where are you on that scale? Right? We talk about how do we really use this intelligence to make smart decisions?
Immense. Today's marketing budgets have a lot of focus on digital spend, and to have the right spend, you got to know where you have to spend. So data mining, automation, those are all behind the scene mega churners of data. But then at the end of the day, as a hotelier, I still believe the moment of truth is when you interact with the guest. And that's where the empowerment of your employees, how well have you trained them, how are they going to react to that situation, that's where that entire data gets to use. In this world of OTAs, and we are all in a pillow fight with OTAs, if not absolute, we have not come to blows yet, how do you make sure that you make an OTA booker a hotel booker? How do you do that? Because today it is not about profitability of coming just by revenue and rate. It's about also channel mix. So all these data mining does help us orient ourselves and spend our marketing dollars in the right way.
So a lot of hotel chains, especially in the States, feel like the way to get that customer to come direct is not just through the loyalty program, but also through loyalty discounts. So if you're a member of the loyalty program, you get these discounts. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's going to backfire?
I don't subscribe to that fully. And the reason why I say that is I think probably many of us in the audience, including myself, we carry multiple airline cards. We probably even carry multiple hotel cards as well, loyalty cards. So how do we make sure that even if I'm carrying multiple cards, I still choose X brand? And I think that comes with a combination of two things. One is the value proposition, particularly even if I'm paying myself or the company. And the second is, how do I feel when I get to that hotel? What is my emotional bond? How am I treated? Does somebody know me by name? It is no more about just having somebody's date of birth and some habits. It's about knowing the customer a bit more, making them feel comfortable, and giving them the due attention they need. And OTAs don't have that advantage, if I may go back to that point. We have the advantage of interacting with the guest face to face. We can make an emotional connection, while OTAs cannot. So in fact, that is where the differentiation is in creating loyalty as we compete in this space for business.
Right. But you have to first get them through the door.
You have to get them through your doors.
And that might be where OTAs can be helpful. How much of your distribution in India goes through the OTAs versus direct?
It is on the increase because we also have some very powerful local OTAs such as Make My Trip, Clear Trip, etc., which are doing that.
Is it too high for your liking, or are you managing it to your liking?
I think there is no one size fits all, and I say that, for example, a hotel that's ramping up has greater need to create awareness, and they can utilize all channels and can afford to give some margins because they need to introduce the customer, the guest, to their product. They need to get them through the door, and even if that comes at giving a higher margin of profit to the OTAs, so be it. While a stable, well-settled hotel may not choose to do so. So it just depends on where in the hotel life you are, and of course, what kind of distressed inventory do you have. But I think it is no more today about RevPAR, for example, the revenue per available room. I think the industry, at least in my perspective, is shifting to what we call as TrevPAR, which is total revenue per available room, or GoPAR, which is GOP per available room. And as soon as we start thinking of those terms, particularly GOP per available room, you start thinking of acquisition cost.
Exactly.
What is the cost of acquiring that profitable guest? And is he that guest who's also going to use my food and beverage? Or is he going to bring his alcohol and food from outside and order and not order room service? So the total spend of a guest, we want a bigger size of their wallet, if not for them to empty all their wallet. And that is definitely important to us as we evaluate the strategies to attract that guest.
Right. And you talk about, some brands or some cities and some new hotels, can use an intermediary to get exposure to the marketplace. And then, of course, it's your job to get the guest to return.
Yeah.
So where, how is Radisson Red doing? I mean, right, the intention there is to really go after that millennial market, that looking for a different experience. Is that the market that you're reaching with the brand, and where do you see that brand going?
See, Radisson Red, we launched globally and in India as well, with the intent that it is easier on the investor, number one, because, for example, a single plate food and beverage, all your food and beverage outlets, room service, banquet, everything is on one level, so you don't need multiple satellite kitchens. So as a result, your return on investment is better. And as far as the guest is concerned, it's a brand which allows you friendship, warmth, technology of tomorrow, and it is more for the millennial-minded. You don't have to get holed up in your room and order room service. You can come down and use your laptop and hang around in the lobby and work. So it's a lifestyle brand. We will open our first flagship hotel in Mohali, Chandigarh next year.
Okay. So how many new hotels do you plan to open this year and next year?
Our current run rate is to sign a hotel every 4 weeks and open one every 6 weeks.
And that is in
India. In India. So we usually open about 9 to 10 hotels every year and sign about 12 hotels or so every year. So it's a good run rate. We are happy with it.
Keeping you busy.
Yeah, it is. It does. But it does create problems for talent as well. Because then how do you get people to staff those hotels?
How do you?
And for that, we have our homegrown management training programs. And of course, there are hotel graduates out there that we interview and position. But more importantly, because we have almost 84 hotels in operation, in fact, 84 hotels in operation, know almost about it. So we are able to create cross transfers and provide people the motivation they need. But I always say we hire managers, but we promote leaders. So it's a question of how to make them get to that transition in the journey.
So is there room for a luxury brand in India?
Well, if I look at reports, industry reports, luxury brands of late have been under pressure, rate-wise, and that rate effect they're being hurt by upscale brands creeping up and they having to come down. So is there room? Historically, luxury brands are the ones that have done well in India because the land cost has been high, borrowing cost has been high, loan-term periods have been short. But I think for the time being, luxury brands probably need to really pause and think, is this the time to launch big?
So no.
Probably, yeah, the short answer might be that. Yeah.
So what are some of the other markets in Asia that you are expanding in? Where else do you see opportunity?
Yeah. In Asia Pacific, we have 200 hotels, about 120 operating. After India, China is our biggest market. Population-based country, many cities already ready with infrastructure. Indonesia is another one, Philippines. We are trying to make inroads into new destinations like Bhutan and of course Myanmar, which is very exciting. And of course we have our footprint already in Nepal, expanding also now into Sri Lanka. So all of Asia Pacific, but I would think wherever there is more population base, that's where there is bigger opportunity, obviously just because of numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as a large hotel chain, how do you integrate into the rich heritage and culture of a lot of these markets?
The brand standards may be global, but hospitality is local. That's how I would describe it. What I mean by that is when you go to a hotel, sure, you want the cleanliness, the sanitary part, the bed sheets and everything else to be of a certain level, international level. But hospitality from the heart has to be local. So local cuisine, local music, local food festivals, local uniform. So that part definitely we try to localize.
So where are you positioned against, say, a Marriott, a Hyatt, IHG in Asia?
Yeah. In Asia, of course, all these brands are fairly strong. And different brands have different strengths in different localities as to when they made inroads. We have had an early entrant advantage in India, And we are certainly amongst the international brands amongst the top two. You can probably guess the number one or number two. Those numbers keep changing by the day, depending on when you count. But we are very happy. And it is not, I don't think it's about being number one or number two. At the end of the day, it is about, are you making money for the owners that are flying your flag? And are you making money for yourself? And do you have sustainable growth strategy? I think that's how I look at it. It does not have to be about a pin on your collar that I'm X position. So I look at it a bit for the longer term.
What do you think about what Accor is doing in terms of branding or the independent hotels? Do you think that's a place for a chain like yourself or some of the others to go and brand some of these independents? I mean, why leave it to someone else to do if that's an opportunity?
I think I'll probably refrain from particularly a brand-specific strategy because obviously their board knows best their own strategy as to what fits them. But I do believe that we all, including ourselves, we are constantly monitoring what is changing, whether it's Airbnb or whether it is OTA or whether it is meta search engines such as Trivago. So much is changing. One on technology front, second on branding front, and third, of course, on guest experience front. So we monitor all three verticals, if you will, and then are constantly trying to assign in advance solutions so that we are not behind the curveball.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Lorraine?
Yes?
I have a question for you, Raj.
Please, thank you, Simon.
Talking about, you just gave me the word, Airbnb, alternative lodging. So for you as a huge chain and seeing the new generation evolving, how do you view the alternative lodging space as a competition in the entire environment, and how do you react to it? We have seen some strategies from Accor, acquiring One Fine Stay and getting more into this property management and this individual lodging business as well. Is that something you consider, and how do you perceive the changes in the alternative lodging space?
I think these newer entrants into the market or choice available to the guests cannot be written off. They cannot be ignored. They cannot be swept under the carpet. They are here to stay. They have made a very bold, established presence already. So we are aware of that. But I believe that in the upper upscale segment or even beyond mid-scale, it is difficult for an Airbnb model to survive because hotels come with lots of amenities, lots of personalization, lots of if things go wrong, then what? The last-minute requests and the pampering and all that. So I think though that segment may not be affected as much, but indeed there is a segment out there, particularly the millennial-minded, that would probably feel very comfortable hiring an Uber, getting to Airbnb and staying there and leaving the place. They might enjoy the privacy and they may not need all the frills and amenities that come with it. So the short answer is we got to be on the watch out as to what creep do they have into our own space.
Do you see a role though for Carlson in the sharing economy? Instead of looking at them as just competition, is that an opportunity?
Absolutely, because every threat is an opportunity as well, and indeed this is an emerging threat. So it's a question of looking at it, and I think it's important that those of us who can influence, we choose to do the right thing and treat threats as opportunities.
Lorraine, we have another question.
Hi, my name is Paresh Bhandari. I'm from ZS Associates. My question to you is, you have worked in the international market as well. Are there any major trends you're seeing in the purchasing behavior within the India market compared to the international, like America or Europe region?
Very much so, very much so. It's a challenge as well because, for example, let us say we decide that, okay, X soap would be introduced globally. And then the cost of transportation and everything else, if it is not locally produced, may become prohibitive. On the other hand, there may be vendors who will say, all right, we will provide distribution centers across the globe, including for that matter in India, but their inability to get licenses and registrations of their product to be sold here locally, if it is not expedient enough, then we are not able to manage the situation because import costs are too high, and then you have to provide a substitute product. So indeed, I wish more could be done in standardization of these items because it creates opportunity for the India business as well. But then how do they tackle the expediency of the licenses and the approvals to set up the business? Thank you for asking.
So in April, Carlson was acquired, right, by the Chinese conglomerate HNA. Is there any change in strategy, any impact there?
HNA actually acquired us at the end of, the deal happened at the end of December, although the transaction has been in the making for some time. And HNA, as you know, is a Fortune 500 company. They're a very large conglomerate, and they aspire to make their hospitality division amongst the absolute top. What we are hopeful for is that with them coming on board as the owners for us, we would be able to invest more in technology, probably open more hotels into which are investment oriented with equity into larger markets, gateway markets such as Hong Kong, Singapore, or otherwise, which are source markets for all our hotels. So we are very proud to join hands with them. They're a solid company with lots of credibility, as well as their own travel agencies and otherwise. So there are synergies between the two, and we are happy to have them as the owners.
You mentioned China as a market you're expanding in.
Indeed, China itself is a large market. Yeah.
I was going to switch topics to mobile, because this is an area where we're competing with the OTAs, of Google, TripAdvisor, their apps, and here at Carlson, how much are you investing in your app versus the mobile web, and how are you seeing a lot of bookings? I would imagine in India now coming through the mobile.
Yeah, India is a market where almost everybody has a phone, if not a smartphone, and more people are buying smartphones. I read, in fact, in one of probably your own reports that mobile will soon be almost 69-70% of the way people book. So the booking behavior is changing. It is not about India when we take these decisions, but we look at it in a global perspective. So, of course, we also know that if you are behind on mobile, you will lose out on business, because people are no more necessarily going to book through laptops or voice. We are seeing already voice decline worldwide as a trend, not only for us, but otherwise. And we are also seeing, although GDS is still holding its own, but is coming under pressure. So without a solid mobile-driven booking engine, you're not going to survive. So we have joined hands with Sabre for totally revamping our digital platforms, and of course, mobile is part of that as well.
Mm-hmm. So, are you seeing would you say half your bookings or less than half? I mean, what percent of bookings coming
no,
through?
At present, no. At present, it is way less than half.
So
and not only for us, but in fact for the industry, it is in low teens and 20s. But point is, the exponential rate at which it is growing, that's where the opportunity is, and that's what everybody is wanting to make sure that they don't miss out on. It's growing rather fast.
So how about using the app? You talk about the guest experience and the customer experience. How can you use your app to the virtual check-in, or texting for extra pillows or amenities? Mm-hmm. How far are you looking ahead at that?
Way ahead. In fact, mobile apps, I think soon will be a thing of yesterday, because today brands are also looking at wearable technology. That what can I do through just my Fitbit or my watch or whatever else? Can I use this? What about RIFD, radio frequency, that as a guest approaches the room, just through cameras and whatever else, the door opens. So technology is changing very fast. But of course, right now, I think it's a moment just to pause and first, at least, let's get the mobile app right. We already are using iConcierge and apps for each brand, but it's not enough. I think the apps have to be such that even while you are in the car, because today people are making choice on the go. They're not sitting in their office and deciding. I may be in a hotel and I may decide to extend my stay. I may be thinking of taking the kids to the zoo, but I say, no, let me go to a ballet with my wife and leave the kids home or with a babysitter. So all those choices to be able to make on the go, on mobile, is very important.
So now what about the opportunity that now to sell ancillaries, right, to upsell, to perhaps sell concert tickets or tickets for a sporting event, or now that you have the app, I'm in the destination.
Yeah.
How far along are you with that?
Those are already there. In fact, most brands are already offering and integrating that. Mm-hmm. What we are looking at is how do we make a guest book a room easily on mobile. Just with a few clicks, easy. You get the information,
room
it's
itself.
easy. You don't have to think of going elsewhere. You get the confidence. The best rate online guarantee is already there, whether you're online on the internet or in a mobile app. But how do you just make it so easy for them that they say, all I live is just book? And of course, voice calls are a lot more expensive than mobile. So it's worth investing in mobile.
Ladies and gentlemen, Raj, Rana. Thank
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lorraine.
Thank you, Raj.
Thank you.